no matter where they have been. The Big 12 Conference, is it good to go with this, Garrett? They have just announced their end-of-the-year awards. This is for not just conference play, but for the entire season. Max Duggan is the Offensive Player of the Year. There is no, MVP. Offensive Player of the Year. Uzomah from Kansas State, Defensive Player of the Year. And there's going to be some argument here. I would think, I know Paxton, who's in the chat room, well, what about Jalen Ford? I bet he probably was right in the middle of all that, the linebacker who had a huge year. Newcomers are Dylan Gabriel and Johnny Hodges, who was fantastic for TCU. Gabriel was hot and cold. Richard Reese, the freshman running back at Baylor, the Offensive Freshman of the Year. And then Kendall Daniels from Oklahoma State, the safety, is the Defensive Freshman of the Year, different than newcomer because of the transfers now that you see. Darius Davis, special teams. Cooper Beebe at Kansas State, lineman. Also on the other side, Kansas State, he doubles up, Defensive Player and Defensive Lineman of the Year. And then Sonny Dykes, no surprise, is TCU, the first-year head coach at TCU, as the Coach of the Year.
And TCU loads up the first team, as far as the actual lineup goes of the first team. The second team has an interesting double play here in that Dylan Doyle is the second-team fullback, and he's also on the second team as a linebacker.
Is he really? Yeah, well, there aren't many fullbacks, I would think. There's probably not many that I can think of in the Big 12.
The first team one was Ben Sinnott from
Kansas State, who was big, huge in that route of Baylor at McLean Stadium.
Does that list as a pure fullback?
Yeah.
Okay, that needs to be changed, man. That needs to be like a utility role because there's just not enough. That's kind of silly to have an award where maybe like 3 teams qualify for it, and one guy's a defensive player who comes over on occasion to.
That's why he probably made second team. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because there's only probably 2 guys to pick from.
Well, 3. Jared Russ from Iowa State, also on the second team, but yeah.
Yeah, but you see my point though. There's all these different utility guys that are being used, especially in this league. I just think that'd probably be more worthwhile. But hey, to each their own. Good for Dylan Doyle to double up there. I think I don't know if Gary can put it back up there, but just looking at that list, I think that Jalen Ford as not being the Defensive Player of the Year is a bit of a surprise, given the way he played and how that Longhorn defense got particularly a bit overlooked. Off the top of my head, really the Defensive Player of the Year is the only one that immediately springs to mind for me. Very happy for Richard Reese. Had a great little 3-game stretch and then kind of cooled after that a bit. But he was still very solid and still ran for a lot of yards for just a true freshman that was, called into action due to injury and just necessity. And the rest of it, no surprise to see the 2 teams that are going to be representing in the Big 12 title game have a chunk of the guys who are, considered the better players in the league this year. So, yeah, lots of K-State, lots of TCU, and that's not that shocking. I wonder how much discussion there was. Sonny Dykes being undefeated in year 1, you can't argue that.
But Leipold, right?
Leipold would have been, I'm sure, certainly up for some consideration. I think Kleiman would have to be up for some consideration, but certainly, Dykes is undefeated, so I get that totally.
And then TCU, again, Duggan, if there's like an MVP, you would think he might get that. Then if you opened up the door for an offensive player, then Bijan Robinson or Kendry Miller would be a part of that discussion. Not everybody agrees with them. There's a first team and second team, as Paul mentioned. We're not going to get into all that, but congratulations to those who have been honored. And then last